The screens flickered in the dark control room, glowing blue and white like watchful eyes. Mr. Chibuzo Adeyemi stood frozen, his breath caught in his chest as he stared at the largest screen. On it, his paralyzed son, Kunle, was sitting upright in his wheelchair, not slumped, not tied with pillows, not held up by straps, upright. And behind him stood the maid. Her hands were shaking. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered something Mr. Adeyemi could not hear. One wrong move and Kunle could fall, break his neck, or die. Mr. Adeyemi's heart pounded so hard he thought it would burst. "What are you doing?" he whispered in fear. "What have you done to my son?" His finger hovered over the phone to call security. Then Kunle moved his fingers. Mr. Adeyemi staggered backward, crashing into a chair. The cameras, installed to protect his son, had just revealed something that was never supposed to happen. And that was the moment everything changed. Earlier that year, Mr. Chibuzo Adeyemi was one of the richest men in Lagos, Nigeria. People knew his name from newspapers and television. He owned banks, hotels, and oil contracts. But no one ever saw him smile. Once, long ago, he had been warm and full of laughter. That changed the day his only son, Kunle, was hit by a speeding car outside their home. Kunle was 12 years old then. He survived, but his legs never worked again. Doctors said he might never walk. Worse, the boy stopped speaking much. He stopped laughing. He stopped believing life could still be good. And Mr. Adeyemi stopped trusting the world. He pulled away from friends. He sold his beach house. He built a tall fence around his mansion and filled it with guards. But guards were careless. Nurses came and went. Helpers whispered, stole, or treated Kunle like a broken thing. So Mr. Adeyemi did what rich, scared men often do. He hid cameras, not to spy, not to trap, but to protect. Tiny cameras were placed in corners behind paintings, inside smoke detectors, every hallway, every room Kunle used, even the garden path where Kunle liked to sit in the evenings. Only Mr. Adeyemi knew they existed. Every night after the house slept, he watched the footage. Quietly, carefully, making sure no one heard his son. For months, the cameras showed nothing special. Kunle sat silently in his wheelchair, staring at the wall or the window. Nurses fed him. Cleaners worked around him like he was not there, until the day the old maid quit. That was the day Zainab arrived. She was young, no older than 20, slim, soft-spoken, with tired eyes that looked older than her face. She came from a small town in Kwara State. Her clothes were neat but worn. The house manager almost sent her away. "She is too young," he told Mr. Adeyemi, "and she has no experience in a house like this." Mr. Adeyemi barely looked up from his desk. "Does she steal?" he asked. "No, sir." "Does she talk too much?" "No, sir." "Then let her work." That was how Zainab became Kunle's maid. At first, she was like the others. She cleaned quietly. She followed rules. She kept her eyes low. On the cameras, she looked ordinary, invisible. Mr. Adeyemi almost stopped watching her. But then, small things began to change. One afternoon, the camera showed Zainab kneeling beside Kunle instead of standing over him. She was talking to him while cleaning the room. Mr. Adeyemi leaned closer to the screen. Kunle did not answer. He never did. Still, she spoke. She told him about her village, about goats that chased her when she was small, about how she missed her mother, about how silence used to scare her too. She did not speak loudly. She did not force him to respond. She just spoke, like he mattered. Another day, Kunle dropped his spoon on purpose. The nurse sighed in anger, but Zainab picked it up, washed it, and placed it back gently in his hand. She smiled at him. Kunle looked away, but his jaw tightened. Mr. Adeyemi noticed. The nights grew heavier. Zainab stayed longer in Kunle's room than needed. She read to him sometimes, simple children's books. She played soft music from her phone. Mr. Adeyemi told himself it meant nothing. Until the night everything broke open. It was raining hard. Thunder shook the mansion. Mr. Adeyemi could not sleep. As usual, he went to the control room. That was when he saw Zainab wheel Kunle into the therapy room. At midnight, his heart dropped. "No," he muttered. "That room is locked." Yet there she was. She locked the door behind her. Mr. Adeyemi leaned so close to the screen, his breath fogged the glass. Zainab placed Kunle in the center of the room. She removed the safety belt from his wheelchair. "Stop," Mr. Adeyemi whispered in terror. "Stop it." Zainab knelt in front of Kunle. She held his hands. She spoke softly, crying now. Then, slowly, carefully, she helped him lean forward. Kunle's body trembled. Mr. Adeyemi reached for the alarm. Then Kunle's fingers moved, on the screen, clear as day. Mr. Adeyemi's knees buckled. Before he could understand what he was seeing, Kunle's body tilted further, too far. Zainab lost her grip. Kunle began to fall, and the screen went black. Mr. Adeyemi screamed. Mr. Chibuzo Adeyemi was already running before the security alarms finished screaming. His shoes slammed against the marble floor as he burst out of the control room. Guards shouted behind him, confused and scrambling. His heart felt like it was tearing itself apart inside his chest. "My son!" he yelled. "Move!" The screen going black replayed in his mind again and again. Kunle falling. Zainab losing her grip. The soundless scream frozen on his son's face. He reached the therapy room and shoved the door open. Everything stopped. Kunle was not on the floor. He was back in his wheelchair, breathing hard, his face pale but alive. Zainab was on her knees in front of him, crying openly now, her forehead pressed to the floor. "I'm sorry, sir," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry." Mr. Adeyemi stood there, shaking. "What did you do?" he demanded, his voice breaking. "What were you trying to do to my son?" Zainab raised her head slowly. Her eyes were red, filled with fear, but also something else. Determination. "I was helping him," she said quietly. Security rushed in. The house manager followed. Nurses gasped when they saw Kunle out of his room at night. "Get her out," the manager said quickly. "She could have killed him." Mr. Adeyemi looked at Kunle. His son was staring at Zainab, not with fear, not with anger, but with something close to trust. "Mr. Boy," Adeyemi lifted a hand. "Everyone out." They froze. "Now," he repeated. Reluctantly, they left. The door closed, leaving only father, son, and maid. Mr. Adeyemi turned back to Zainab. "You broke every rule," he said. "You entered a locked room. You removed safety straps. You risked his life." Zainab bowed her head. "Yes, sir." "Then explain why," he said, his voice low and dangerous. She swallowed. "When I was small," she began, "my brother was sick. His legs stopped working after fever. Everyone treated him like he was already dead, but my mother didn't." She looked at Kunle. She talked to him. She tried every day, even when people laughed. One day his fingers moved, small but real. Mr. Adeyemi's chest tightened. "You think my son is the same?" he asked. Zainab nodded. "He is not broken, sir. He is just quiet." And lonely. Silence filled the room. Kunle's hand twitched. Both adults froze. Mr. Adeyemi stepped closer, slowly, afraid to breathe. "Kunle?" he whispered. Kunle did not speak, but his fingers moved again. Mr. Adeyemi felt tears burn his eyes, tears he had not allowed himself in years. Doctors had told him to accept reality. Nurses had told him not to hope. Money had bought machines, therapy, experts from abroad, but not this, not movement, not now. Mr. Adeyemi turned sharply to Zainab. "You will not do this again," he said firmly. She nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." "But," he continued, "you will tell me everything." That night, he watched the footage again. Not just from that night, from weeks before. He saw things he had missed. Zainab helping Kunle sit straighter each day, whispering encouragement. Gently tapping his fingers, counting softly, singing old children's songs under her breath. He saw Kunle respond in tiny ways. A blink, a finger twitch, a breath held longer. And he saw something else. Joy. Very small, very fragile, but real. The next days were tense. Mr. Adeyemi did not fire Zainab. That shocked everyone. Instead, he warned her and watched her more closely than ever. The cameras became his obsession. During the day, Zainab returned to normal duties. She cleaned. She served meals. She spoke less. But at night, when she thought no one was watching, she sat by Kunle's bed and read to him again. And Kunle listened. Mr. Adeyemi noticed changes in his son. Kunle ate more. He stayed awake longer. Sometimes, when Zainab spoke, his eyes followed her. Hope began to creep in, and hope frightened Mr. Adeyemi more than despair ever had, because hope could be taken away. One afternoon, he called the family doctor. "Run the test again," he said. "All of them." The doctor hesitated. "Sir, we've done again," Mr. Adeyemi repeated. The tests showed something unexpected, slight nerve response. "Small," the doctor said carefully, "but unusual." Mr. Adeyemi felt dizzy. That night he watched the cameras again, and this time what he saw made his blood run cold. Zainab had returned to the therapy room, but she was not alone. A man stood beside her. Mr. Adeyemi zoomed the camera in. He did not recognize the man. The stranger handed Zainab a small bag. Money. Mr. Adeyemi's heart dropped. "What are you doing?" he whispered angrily. The man leaned close to Kunle's wheelchair. Zainab shook her head, her face tight with fear. She pushed the money back. The man grabbed her wrist. Mr. Adeyemi jumped to his feet. Then the man said something that froze him in place. "If the boy walks," the man said, "everything changes." Mr. Adeyemi's hands trembled. Who was this man? And why did he not want Kunle to heal? The camera feed cut to another angle. Zainab turned suddenly and looked straight into the hidden camera. Her eyes widened. She knew. Someone was watching. Zainab did not scream. She did not run. She simply stood there, staring straight into the hidden camera, her eyes wide and shining with fear. For a moment, no one moved. Not her, not the strange man, not Kunle in his wheelchair. Mr. Chibuzo Adeyemi felt like his heart had stopped. "She knows," he whispered. On the screen, Zainab slowly turned away from the camera and faced the man again. Her hands were shaking now. "I told you before," she said, her voice low but firm. "I will not take your money." The man laughed softly. It was not a kind sound. "You are a foolish girl," he replied. "Do you know who you are helping? Do you know what will happen if that boy gets better?" Zainab stepped in front of Kunle without thinking, blocking him with her body. "I don't care who his father is," she said. "He is a child. He deserves a chance." Mr. Adeyemi's chest tightened. No one had spoken about his son like that in years. The man's smile disappeared. "You were told to slow him down," he said, "not wake him up." Zainab shook her head. "I was told nothing. You only said I should work here and report what I see." The man leaned closer. "And you did. You told us the boy does not move, that he is weak, that nothing would change." Kunle's fingers twitched on the armrest. The man did not notice. Mr. Adeyemi did. Rage burned through him. "So it's true," he growled. "She was sent to spy." The man reached into his pocket again and pulled out the money. "This is your last chance," he said. "Take it. Forget this foolish hope, or you will lose more than this job." Zainab looked down at the money. Then she surprised everyone. She slapped it out of his hand. The notes scattered across the floor. "I would rather be poor," she said, tears running down her face, than be the reason a child stays trapped. The man's face hardened. You have made a mistake. He turned and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he looked back at Kunle, cold, calculating. This house is built on secrets, he said. And secrets always come back to collect their price. The door slammed shut. Mr. Adeyemi was already shouting orders into his phone. Lock the gates. No one leaves. Find out who that man is. Now. Guards moved fast. Cameras switched angles. The mansion buzzed with tension. In the therapy room, Zainab collapsed to the floor, sobbing silently. Kunle made a soft sound, barely a sound, but real. Zainab froze. She lifted her head slowly. Kunle, she whispered. His lips trembled. No word came out, but his eyes filled with tears. Zainab crawled to him and held his hands, careful not to move him too much. You are safe, she said softly. I promise. Mr. Adeyemi watched through the cameras, his hands clenched into fists. All his life he had believed money could control everything, enemies, problems, fear. But now he saw the truth. Someone wanted his son to remain broken, and someone else, someone he had hired out of pity, was risking everything to make sure that did not happen. Minutes later, security burst into the room with Mr. Adeyemi behind them. Zainab looked up, terrified. I didn't mean to, she began. Mr. Adeyemi raised a hand. Leave us, he told the guards. They hesitated. Now. When they were alone, he looked at Zainab for a long time. Who sent that man? He asked. Zainab wiped her tears. I don't know his name. He came to my village months ago. He said I would earn good money if I worked here and shared what I saw. Shared with who? Mr. Adeyemi asked sharply. She shook her head. He never said, only that some people did not want things to change. Mr. Adeyemi felt a chill. Business rivals, family enemies. People who had gained from his pain. He looked at Kunle. His son was watching him closely now. Kunle, Mr. Adeyemi said softly, kneeling in front of him. Can you hear me? Kunle's fingers moved. Once. Twice. Zainab covered her mouth, crying again. Mr. Adeyemi felt something break inside him. Not fear, not anger, pride, hope. He stood up slowly. From today, he said, his voice steady. Nothing happens in this house without my knowledge. He turned to Zainab. You are not just a maid anymore. Her eyes widened. Sir? You will help my son, he continued. Openly, with doctors, with protection. He paused. And if anyone tries to stop that... His eyes darkened. They will answer to me. Just then, a guard knocked urgently on the door. Sir, the guard said, we found something. Mr. Adeyemi turned sharply. What? The guard swallowed. The man who came tonight. He works for someone you know. Mr. Adeyemi's blood ran cold. Who? He demanded. The guard hesitated, then spoke. Your younger brother, sir. The room went silent. Kunle's fingers curled tightly. Zainab gasped. Mr. Adeyemi felt the ground shift beneath his feet. Family, betrayal, and a war he never saw coming. Mr. Chibuzo Adeyemi did not speak for a long time. The words, your younger brother, echoed in his head like thunder. He straightened slowly, his face calm, but his eyes burned. Are you sure? He asked the guard. Yes, sir, the guard replied. The man's phone records link directly to Mr. Tunde Adeyemi, and the car outside the gate is registered to one of his companies. Zainab felt dizzy. She looked from Mr. Adeyemi to Kunle, then back again. She had stepped into something far bigger than she ever imagined. Mr. Adeyemi waved the guard away. Double the security. No visitors, not even family. The door closed. Silence filled the room. Tunde, Mr. Adeyemi said quietly, tasting the name. My own brother. He laughed once, bitter and dry. When Kunle was injured, he continued more to himself than to anyone else. Tunde told me to move on. He said the boy was a burden. He said I should focus on business. Zainab's hands clenched. Kunle's eyes stayed fixed on his father. I didn't listen, Mr. Adeyemi went on. So he waited. He turned to Zainab. You were not sent to help my son, he said. You were sent to watch him and make sure nothing changed. Zainab nodded slowly. At first, yes. I thought it was only about money. But when I met Kunle, I couldn't do it anymore. Mr. Adeyemi studied her face. There was no lie there. Only fear and courage mixed together. You could have walked away, he said. I tried, she replied softly. But every day he looked at me like he was asking not to be forgotten. Kunle made a low sound in his throat. Not a word, but not silence either. Mr. Adeyemi turned to his son again. Kunle, he said gently, your uncle thinks you are weak, that you don't matter. Kunle's fingers tightened. Mr. Adeyemi felt tears rise again, but this time he did not fight them. You matter, he said firmly, and no one will decide your future for you. The next morning, the house changed. Doctors were brought in again, but this time Mr. Adeyemi watched them closely. Therapists began working with Kunle twice a day. Zainab was allowed to stay, but never alone. Everything was careful, controlled. The cameras watched it all. Kunle struggled. His body shook during therapy. Sometimes he cried from pain and frustration. Other times he went still and silent again, like he was slipping away. Those were the low moments. Then came the highs. One afternoon during therapy, Kunle lifted his hand on his own. Not much, just a little. The therapist gasped. Zainab smiled through tears. Mr. Adeyemi felt his heart soar, then fear rushed in just as fast. Because that night, Tunde Adeyemi came to the gate. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He smiled politely, like a man with nothing to hide. I want to see my brother, he told the guards. Mr. Adeyemi watched him on the cameras. Let him in, he said calmly. Zainab's eyes widened. Sir, I need to hear what he has to say, Mr. Adeyemi replied. Tunde walked into the living room like he owned the place. He was well-dressed, confident, and calm. My brother, Tunde said warmly, you look tired. You sent a man into my house, Mr. Adeyemi said coldly. You tried to stop my son from healing. Tunde sighed, shaking his head. You don't understand. If Kunle recovers, certain legal things change. Control of assets, trusts, boards. So this is about money, Mr. Adeyemi said. It's about stability, Tunde replied smoothly. A paralyzed heir keeps things simple. Zainab felt sick. Mr. Adeyemi stepped closer. You used a poor girl to spy for you. Tunde glanced at Zainab. I gave her an opportunity. No, Mr. Adeyemi snapped. You gave her blood money. Tunde smiled thinly. Be careful, brother. Hope can be dangerous. Just then, a sound filled the room. A clear sound. Papa. Everyone froze. Mr. Adeyemi turned slowly. Kunle was staring straight at him. His lips trembled, but the word had been spoken. Papa. Zainab covered her mouth. Tunde's smile vanished. Mr. Adeyemi dropped to his knees in front of his son, tears streaming freely now. Kunle? He whispered. Kunle swallowed, breathing hard. Papa, he said again. Tunde took a step back, his face pale. The cameras captured everything, and Mr. Adeyemi knew without a doubt that the war had just begun. The room stayed silent long after Kunle spoke. Papa. The word hung in the air like a miracle no one dared to touch. Mr. Chibuzo Adeyemi stayed on his knees, afraid that if he moved too fast, the moment would disappear. His hands trembled as he reached for his son. Yes, he whispered. Yes, my son. I'm here. Kunle's chest rose and fell quickly. Speaking had taken everything out of him, but his eyes were awake, more awake than they had been in years. Tunde Adeyemi was the first to recover. "This proves nothing," he said sharply, though fear had crept into his voice. "Children make sounds. Doctor said, get out." The words were calm, deadly calm. Tunde looked at his brother. "Chibuzo?" "I said, get out of my house," Mr. Adeyemi repeated, standing slowly, "before I show everyone exactly what you have been doing." Tunde's jaw tightened. "You wouldn't." Mr. Adeyemi turned toward the wall. "Wouldn't I?" he asked. He pressed a button on the tablet in his hand. Screens along the living room wall came alive. Footage played. The man in the therapy room, the money being offered, the words, "If the boy walks, everything changes." Tunde staggered back. "You spied on me?" he hissed. "I protected my son," Mr. Adeyemi replied. Guards stepped forward. "Escort him out," Mr. Adeyemi said, "and contact my lawyers, tonight." Tunde's face twisted with rage and fear as he was taken away. When the door closed, the house felt lighter, quieter. Zainab finally sank into a chair, her legs weak. "I'm sorry," she whispered again. "I never wanted any of this." Mr. Adeyemi turned to her. "For months," he said slowly, "I watched you on those cameras." Her heart raced. "I thought I was watching to protect my son," he continued, "but what I really saw was someone protecting his spirit." He bowed his head to her. "Thank you." Zainab burst into tears. The weeks that followed changed everything. Therapy continued, slowly, carefully. Kunle did not suddenly stand or walk, but he spoke more. He laughed once, softly, at a story Zainab told. He lifted his hand when his father entered the room. Each small step felt like a mountain climbed. The doctors were stunned. "This shouldn't be possible," one said. Mr. Adeyemi only nodded. He knew why it was possible. One night, long after everyone slept, Mr. Adeyemi returned to the control room. He watched old footage again, not with fear this time, but with understanding. He saw himself too, a man who had hidden behind walls, guards, and money, a man who thought cameras could replace love. On the screen, Zainab sat beside Kunle, reading to him, her voice gentle and steady. Kunle listened, trusted, tried. Mr. Adeyemi turned off the screens one by one. The cameras had done their job. They had protected his son. But more than that, they had exposed the truth. That wealth could not heal a broken heart. That power could not buy hope. And that sometimes the greatest care comes from the person you least expect. He walked to Kunle's room. His son was awake. "Papa," Kunle said softly. Mr. Adeyemi smiled, the first real smile in years, and held his son's hand. Outside, the cameras stayed dark. For the first time, he was no longer afraid of what he might see. "Do you believe love and patience can sometimes heal what money and doctors cannot? Why?" Like, comment and subscribe for more interesting stories.